Okay, D. McClung, Archer Monologues. It's the 20th of October, 2016. Let me remind you, the 21st century. You know, like modern times. Like, the age of where every human being on the planet should probably, most likely be like an intelligent human being. And act accordingly. Alright, so, I watched the debate last night. Lunatic Trump and psychopath Hillary. I'm a little surprised that she actually looked pretty healthy. She looked kind of professional. Looked, I didn't say talked. She talked like she talked. I kind of expected her to at least waver or cough or, pass out or something. But, she didn't. They must have pumped her full of some kind of drug. Anyway, I have to tell you. And I'm really the presidential debates, at least the ones with Donald and Hillary, sure ain't like the debates I participated in when I was in high school and college. As I remember it, people put forth their opinions, their views on the debate question, and then shut the hell up while the other person had their say. Presented their argument. I must say, this is the most bizarre election I have ever experienced and witnessed. And I've witnessed a few over my 7 decades on this planet. Okay, 1 year shy of 7 decades, but, close enough. And I think, it's like, what the fuck? I mean, seriously, what the fuck? All right, first off, they both have the Second Amendment thing wrong, and I am outraged and appalled by their ignorance. And I'm guessing it's more than just ignorance. There's a little bit of stupid in there, too, as well as some conniving, evil, most likely criminal element to their words. They have a total lack of respect and understanding of the Constitution, which, by the way, is the law that governs the government. You know what I'm saying? It's the law that the government has to obey. Or, bingo, they can be executed for treason. It's a capital crime to violate your oath of office. How do I know this? Because at the end of the oath of office, let's say the president, I swear to do whatever. Okay? No, you don't swear to do whatever. You do to obey the Constitution and fulfill the duties of your job according to the Constitution. And if you don't, at the end of that oath, with your hand up and probably your hand on a Bible, that's just like fucking stupid. But it's reminding us of something that we would like not to think about. Because Christian Bible? Shit. Why don't they swear, with their hand on the fucking Constitution like it's supposed to be? Back whenever they come up with this routine, this ceremony of swearing in, there were a bunch of Christian lunatics, I mean retards, 200 and some years ago. They said, let's just have an oath of office, to make it official that they're actually, actually in the job now. And let's have them swear on the Bible and swear before God that, if I violate my oath of office and violate the law of the Constitution, which is the law that tells me what to do and what not to do as a president, I can be fucking executed. or at the very least removed from office and sent to prison or, some equivalent. But be an insane asylum. The statement, the phrase that comes at the end of that oath of office, and I believe every president that's ever been sworn in has said at the end of that office, "So help me God." Now that's an archaic phrase. It should have gone out. I mean, really, it should have been gone out, particularly out of government, for like about, like 200 years ago. Because, people are not stupid now. Well, they are, but I'm saying, 21st century, how could anybody be fucking stupid now? Just simple evolutionary process should eliminate most of the stupid in the world, I would think. But apparently not. Some stupid people are in government. Never mind. Anyway, the point is, so help me God means, if you violate your oath of office when you're swearing to, like I swear, protect, defend the Constitution, etc., then that means if you don't, then you broke the law. And if you broke, it's a capital crime. Because it is. Because that's what so help me God means. It means we'll send you to God and you can face to face with God. I'm talking about in the delusional, retarded sense of what people used to think about that religion thing. Because this is 21st century. Why is anybody following and believing and spouting out, archaic freaking nonsense, mythological nonsense, in today's world? I mean, how can you be that retarded? How can you be that, ancient-minded person? I mean, that's like saying, oh, yeah, the president's got to swear an oath that, the world is actually flat. No. So anyway, but they do, at the end of the oath, say, so help me God. If I was being sworn in as President of the United States, I can tell you, I will take the oath on the Constitution. All right, so a copy of the Constitution. An official copy. And I would, raise my hand and say, I swear on the Constitution, the law that governs the government, that I will not break the law of the Constitution that governs the government and the law of the land that the government has to obey. And if I do violate the law and violate my oath of office to honor and protect and defend the Constitution, etc., you can send me up to God and God can just help me. Or not. But that's what that means. It does mean that. I mean, those words mean what they mean. And considering it's an archaic phrase from back in freaking 1700s, almost in the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages or whatever. Unbelievable. But at any rate, take an oath. And so help me God means, God's the only one that's going to help you, because we're sure as hell not going to help you. We're going to help you out of this world and help you get up there to heaven. It almost makes me crack up laughing just saying such stupid shit. All right, but it's what it means. If I was president, if I was being sworn in as president, I'd put my hand on the Constitution, raise my hand, and swear to obey the law of the Constitution and so on. And at the end, I would say, "So help me." Because to evoke God in that is just fucking stupid. But ceremonial speaking, doing the ritual of being, inaugurated into president of the office, it's okay, because it means what it means. And it always has meant what it meant. And it means what it means. And those words mean what they mean. It's that simple. And it means, so help me God, means, God help you if you break the law that you just took an oath to uphold and obey. That's what it means. You may disagree with me, but that's probably caused out of ignorance. And probably, I'm almost 100% certain that you never even thought about this. Okay, give me credit for pointing out something that's obvious, that you should know already, like just naturally should know it from like the day you're born. Well, at least 12 or so. Words mean what they mean, and that's what those words mean. And when you say them at the end of an oath of office, you're putting your life on the line. You're saying, if I fuck up, kill me. Hang me, firing squad, whatever. May God help me, because I've just done fucked up so bad. I'm talking about as the president would say, I have fucked up so bad that people are going to send me up to God for judgment. That's what it means. That's what it's meant for 225 years or so. It meant it before that, even. Because I'm pretty sure it's always meant that. I mean, as far as taking an oath as a government official. But you never thought about that, did you? You just automatically just hear it, and it just kind of goes over your head, over your head. And I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Well, they say it at the end of the oath of office. Presidents do, so help me God. That means what it means, as I've just described it to you. Oh, by the way, don't argue with me on this. I mean, just don't. I mean, you want to, and you certainly have the right to, whatever you want to say, think, whatever. Believe whatever you want to believe, and you can even argue amongst yourselves, I guess, fine, but don't argue with me about it. I don't want to hear it. Because what I've just told you is the God's honest truth. So help me God, it is. There's an irony. All right. So that's that. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Second Amendment thing. Okay? Second Amendment. I think it's admirable that Donald Trump supports the Second Amendment. Or so he says. But here's the thing. Oh, by the way, these fucking cigarettes that they make nowadays is a crime. The freaking tobacco companies should be like, shall I refer to the previous phrase? God should help them. If you know what I mean. Well, of course you do. I just explained it to you. They don't smoke right. They won't stay lit. They taste like crap. And the government is way too criminally oriented when it comes to the war on us smokers. Excuse me. But anyway, the tobacco companies should be told to straighten up by the people. But we, the smokers, should go to the tobacco companies and say, "Hey, listen here. You're committing a fraud. You're selling a fraudulent you're selling a fraudulent, defective product because they won't burn. They won't stay lit. And it tastes like crap. And you put crap in there things that can cause cancer, maybe. Maybe. I said maybe. I won't get into that. Because, by the way, secondhand smoke, no, it doesn't cause cancer, lung cancer, because it's just biologically not feasible to even think that. So anyway, back to the freaking debate shit. All right. Well, by the way, you don't believe that? Yeah, well, I'm laughing at you. All right, fool. Anyway, hopefully you're not a fool, and hopefully you don't go that way. I mean, you're listening to me, so obviously you're obviously fairly intelligent. But if you don't know things, that's all right. Being ignorant is not unusual. I mean, everybody's ignorant when they're born, and then they learn shit. And a lot of times it takes you a while. Like, however old you are now, that's how long it took you to come to the realization to learn that what I just told you about the Second Amendment and smoking and stuff. All right. But here's the thing about that. It's not for him or any government official or any wannabe president to just support the Second Amendment. Whoever this president is, or any other government official for that matter, it is required, I repeat, required under penalty of death. We've already gone through this. So help them God. At the end of their oath of office means, if they violate the oath, then the Constitution, the law that they're swearing to obey, then they're done. They're out of there. Now, I realize execution's a little harsh. I mean, I'm not in favor of killing people. I mean, execution like the death penalty and, and the legal system in America, that's kind of archaic too, really. I mean, we shouldn't have to kill people. Anybody, under any circumstance, really. I mean, if you got a barbarian that's attacking you and killing you and trying to kill you and shit, then shoot him. Be done with him. So if the President of the United States is attacking people, then it's understandable that those people would say, you're killing me, you're murdering me, you're murdering my family. You're, using drones to, drop bombs and shit on my house and murder my kids and so on. And, we hate you and, you deserve to be dead because you committed a crime against humanity. All right, get back to that. I kind of go off on these little tangents because it's all important. And you should pay attention to every detail because I'm not jiving you. I'm not shucking you. I'm telling you. If you're like rational, logical human being and you're intelligent to some degree, even average intelligent people should be able to figure out and comprehend this. I'm not, just because I happen to be brilliant, doesn't mean you can't at least be freaking smart enough to figure out what words mean because there is a dictionary after all. We have a whole history to go by. Back in the old days, they used to believe, there was a God shit. A lot of people. Probably a lot more people than now, actually. But, because there's more, well, maybe the other way. There's a lot more people now than there used to be. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying to you is, Donald Trump supports the Second Amendment, and he supports the right to have, self-defense and so on and so on. And he did get endorsed by that gun place, National Rifle Association, NRA. All right, did he? Maybe. All right. So it's not enough just to support it. He has to obey it. So if he's president, God forbid. Oh, I used the God word again. And of course, same for Hillary. I mean, God forbid either one of them becomes president. I mean, that's just a nightmare I can't even begin to imagine. On the other hand, so as far as the Second Amendment, well, if he respects it and he's going to, have support the Second Amendment. You don't support an amendment; you just obey the damn thing. I might support it because I'm like, I don't have anything to do with it. It's not a law; it affects me. I'm not like, I'm not going to try to infringe upon the rights of anybody to keep and bear arms. I mean, it's not I don't have that authority. I'm just another person like you, as a citizen. But a government official, bang, bingo, I can have something to say about that because if the president violates the Constitution, I'm thinking let's respect the law here and remove him from office post haste, ASAP. And, if necessary, if he's murdered mass quantities of human beings like George Bush and Obama too, for that matter, then not directly, not in person, not with a gun in his hand kind of thing, but telling people, hit squads, go over there and kill those people, and even stay here in America and kill those people, as the Nazi police state bastards are doing every day in this country. You know who I'm talking about. So he's responsible. He's not supposed to let that happen. He's supposed to, like if someone commits treason, and I don't mean treason against the government, I mean treason against the freedom of the American people and the principles of freedom and the Constitution, etc., etc. Then, just so help me God, send them there to God. Say, bye, bam, you're dead. Yeah, see you in hell, motherfucker. But anyway, I don't believe in killing people just frivolously. I mean, I don't think any criminal, I think the death penalty should be reserved for immediate execution of a person trying to hurt me or kill me or rape me or whatever, or her. You know, in other words, if you're coming like kicking in my door and busting into my house like a home invasion, and and I'm sitting there at my desk, and you do that, or sleeping in bed, they like to do that in the middle of the night when you're in bed for some reason. I wonder why, the bastards. Catch us off guard so we can't, defend ourselves. Particularly if we're innocent of any crime, by the way. And I'm innocent of any crime because I've never broken a valid law in my life. I might have not obeyed illegal and invalid laws, but that's another story. The point here is, he supports it, but the question is, will he do anything about the laws that exist already that are not valid, not allowed by the Constitution? For example, I've heard, some of my research, I've seen, I've read, I've found out that there's something like 60,000 plus gun laws in America. And, excuse me, but a regulation or a law is an infringement. And, I don't, the words mean what they mean. If you don't understand the concept of shall not be infringed, you're too stupid to be president. Seriously, Donald. So 60,000 laws in this country are, excuse me, not valid, not allowed, an act of treason because you violated the Second Amendment, which is for the government, not for us. I'm not going to infringe upon anybody. I can infringe upon somebody's right to keep and bear arms, like my son. I'm sorry, son, but no, you can't have a gun because I'm like the head of this household, and you're not having it. And don't touch my guns because, well, for one thing, I don't want you to accidentally shoot somebody or me or yourself. So just leave the gun alone. It's not for you. Technically speaking, it's my gun, not yours. So leave it alone. I might leave it to you in my will if you're a good guy. If you promise not to murder people with it. And of course, if you promise that if you ever get in a situation where your life is threatened and you have to defend yourself and your property or your family or your freedom, that you'll actually use the gun to protect yourself. Defend yourself, your rights, your freedom, your life, your family, your neighbors even. I don't expect you to defend, some Chinese guy living in Hong Kong because that's outside your jurisdiction as a citizen of humanity. I mean, yeah, maybe, but, don't be stupid. And the government says, I go over there and kill them people. Kill Osama bin Laden. If that's actually the way it happened, if it actually did happen, that's not defending anything. That's murder. And whoever committed that murder, like the special ops people or Marines or what have you, hit squad. They were ordered to go to Pakistan and murder somebody. And dump them in the sea. Which is another crime, by the way. We won't get into that. Anyway, back to this Donald Trump freaking thing. Alright. If you honestly believe that the Second Amendment should be obeyed by the government, then you would say something to the effect of, there are 60,000 laws in this country that are infringing upon the right to keep and bear arms, and those laws have to be repealed. Like right now. All 60,000 of them. Including the ones in freaking communist, socialist, freaking insane countries, state of California. At the Supreme Court, he's talking about Supreme. I'll put people on the Supreme Court. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Because maybe nobody will die or retire from the Supreme Court while your term of office, if you're president. Oh, God forbid. But I'll put people on. I'm pretty sure that you're not supposed to do that as a president. You're supposed to nominate someone for the Supreme Court seat. You're supposed to. It's not supposed to be partisan. It's supposed to be 100% based on the Constitution. So I'm guessing that if Donald Trump was to appoint someone to the Supreme Court and he actually got confirmed, that person better be impartial. That person better not be a freaking socialist bastard, or even a neocon, conservative, right wing, bully, tyrant piece of shit. They shouldn't have to. And by the way, he said, interpret the Constitution or interpret the Second Amendment. Excuse me, Donald, that's not their job. Their job is not to interpret anything. And wherever you got this idea, I'm guarantee you it wasn't in the original idea of establishing this country and the government and the Supreme Court. Their job is to tell you that, your law that you tried to pass, let's say Congress passes a law infringing upon the right of free speech, or the gun thing, then Supreme Court says, and it's our ruling that the Constitution says right there in that Second Amendment shall not be infringed, and your law infringes upon the right, so your law is invalid and we're throwing it out. You're not going to use that law anymore. It's gone. History. Done. Out of there. Repealed. Finished. Gone. And there's 60,000 laws that need to be gone. Now, let's go over seriously. That's it. No law is allowed. None. Zip. Zero. Zelf. You can't regulate freaking a human right. And I have the right to keep and bear arms. Period. Case closed. End of story. Not discussion. No negotiations. Law says, you got to have this, got to do that. You can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, excuse me. Fuck you. No, you can't tell me that. So Donald, if you're president, see to it that there's 60,000 laws within, America, federal, state, local, whatever. Just make it clear. No law means no law. None. Zip. Zero. Zelch. Nada. Goose eggs. Period. Not negotiable here. Not debatable. Oh, by the way, if you're listening to me and you want to argue with that, fuck you. So on the other hand, we got, and then, he said that stuff about, you fucking moron. All right. So it means that Donald, and I'm guessing most people in this country, including most government officials, just choose to ignore the total fact. They're totally ignorant of the law, which shall not be infringed. I mean, what part of not infringed do you not understand? That means the right is a right, and you can't mess with it. None. Zip. Zero. Zelch. Nada. Unless you're like, take a gun and shoot somebody with it, and then, you're guilty of murder. Fine. Take that guy's gun away from him. But by the way, a crime is not a crime until you commit it. Just thinking about it or talking about it is not a crime. I know they've brainwashed everybody in this country. They've totally manipulated, indoctrinated, and conditioned people to think that, we can do that. Well, no, you can't. Words have been screwed around like by the mind benders and the word twisters. They're like, a word doesn't mean that anymore. It means something totally opposite of what it started out to mean. No, you can't do that. Words mean what they mean. Shall not be infringed means, basically, you don't even have to interpret it. It just means, hey, don't make that law because it infringes upon the rights of human beings to have a frickin' exercise their right to keep and bear arms and use them if necessary to defend themselves or property, their freedom, etc. against the government, tyranny, and bullies and shit. So if Donald had actually said, those laws have to go, then I would have said, right on, Mr. Trump. I probably am not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about what freaking Hillary said, because she thinks, there's a limit, or there needs to be some regulation that won't, excuse me, any regulation is an infringement. I mean, understand English here, people. Any law, regulation is a restriction. That's the definition of those words. If you're regulating something, you're infringing upon it. How utterly fucking stupid do you have to be not to understand the concept of the word shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. 4 words mean what they mean. And they're a good meaning because it's a right. And it's a right because I was born and because I said so. Because, I'm born with the right to keep and bear arms. I mean, a little bit young to be hanging a gun on my hip when I'm like 2 years old, but, shit. Personal responsibility is involved there, like parents should, I'm not going to give you that toy because you might blow your foot off. That's not for the government to say, by the way. The government can mind its own fucking business, which is, do the job that they're designated to do by the Constitution. And that's not including regulating my gun or oppressing my right to have one and use one and need one and have one and put it into effect if necessary. So anyway, that's the gun thing. Hillary, on the other hand, says there's room for regulation, common sense, etc. Obama says, we got to have some common sense here. Obama. All right, won't get into him. He's almost history anyway. Although I'd like to see him go on trial at any point in time before he dies. I don't care if it's 10 years from now. At some point, they should put him on trial for treason and execute the motherfucker. Because he is guilty as, it's just like, can you see my nose? Can you hear my voice? He's guilty. Hillary, guilty. No, Hillary, you can't regulate my gun. Period. It's against the Constitution, against the law, and if you break the law by trying to regulate my gun, or me, in regards to my gun, then you're a traitor and a criminal. And bingo. Firing squad. Bam. All right. What else have we got in this regard? Yeah, that other one. The A word. Probably shouldn't even get started on that one. Probably shouldn't even get started on that one. Alright, gonna take a short break. Be back in a minute. Now, as I was saying, Donald Trump says he supports it, but yet he doesn't say anything about the 60,000 illegal laws that are on the books in America that violate the Second Amendment. And Hillary says, there can be some regulation, and, someone should, fucking slap her upside the head a couple hundred times. Because, no, there can't be any regulation. Let's look at the wording in the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law. Congress being the place that the only body of government body that can actually make laws. The president can't do that, even though he does, because it's a crime. Violates his oath of office. Anyway, you can't regulate something that's a right, and keeping and bearing arms is a human right, natural right, born with that right. And sorry, but no, Hillary, you can't regulate it. You can arrest people who violate the law. That includes government people who violate the law of the Constitution and other laws, like murdering people and making laws that they're not allowed to make under penalty of death, by the way. Treason, execution, or at least remove them from office. At the very least, just take them out. Off the rolls. You just can't. Hillary should be in prison. That's just obvious. There's no debate there. It's just fact. The evidence is true and convincing and overwhelming, and she committed a crime. Lots of them. There's even some speculation, though I personally don't have any proof, but I have some speculative capacity here and speculate that, she had something to do with those 55 people that died weirdly, mysteriously, unusually, like, suicided themselves by shooting themselves in the back of the head twice. I think there's something suspicious there, buddy. Oh, Vince Foster, duh. And talking about committing a crime, Hillary Clinton is involved with, the murder of that guy in Pakistan they called Osama bin Laden because, they invaded his home, middle of the night, went into his house with guns, shot the man in the face. I'm sorry, that's a crime. You're not allowed to do that, Hillary. And, there's no way of interpreting that any other way. And the Supreme Court should interpret it properly. Without interpreting it at all, it says, the law states, international law, for example, states, you don't go in a foreign country and murder the people in that country. It's a crime. It's a crime against humanity. And, you get hung by the neck until you're fucking dead for that. I mean, didn't they hang Saddam Hussein for committing crimes against humanity? Didn't they? I'm pretty sure they did. Well, according to the trial, anyway. Actually, I just think the United States government wanted to get rid of the guy, and the best way to do that was to make an example of him by hanging him by the neck, to be a lesson to the rest of these upstart people in other countries that think, oh, yeah, we're going to not do what the government says. We're not going to do what the United States government says. We're going to defy the United States government's empire, dictatorial, we own the world attitude. This is what happens to you if you defy Washington, D.C. I think it's pretty obvious. But then again, Adolf Hitler, if he hadn't killed himself, assuming he did, he would have been tried, convicted, and executed for his crimes against humanity. Murdering millions of people. And responsible for the deaths of others. Millions of others. So, Hillary, no. You can't regulate that because it's a right. Rights can't be licensed, regulated, taxed, made legal or illegal, regulated, understood. You can't. It's against the law. You can't do it. You do it, you're guilty of a crime. Bingo. Go to jail. Or it can be executed. If your violation of the Constitution causes any human being to suffer a loss physically, be like dead, or like maimed or injured or deprived of their human rights or their property or their loved ones, in the case of, let's drop a bomb on this guy's family in Pakistan or wherever, guilty. There's no debate there. There's nothing, we don't discuss this. This is true. Period. End of story. So Hillary Clinton is guilty. I know, world opinion, but, we're the jury. And it doesn't have to be unanimous. I mean, if Hillary dropped a bomb on my house and killed my family, and I survived, guess what? I would hate her, and I would do whatever I could to avenge the deaths of my family. Oh. In other words, if Obama and Bush, they created terrorists by murdering innocent people in foreign countries, which is a crime, one thing, it's international law says you can't invade a foreign country and kill those people. If you're guilty, if you do that, you're guilty of, crimes against humanity, and we'll just zip you off to The Hague and hang you by the neck until you're fucking dead. Pay attention, Hillary. You're next. That is to say, assuming that the government, like the governments, the law, the United Nations, for example. What a joke. All right, but, you break the law, international law, you're guilty, and, people in those countries that have been victimized by, like Iraq, Iraq and Afghanistan, those people should say, hey, we're charging the United States government and military with, crimes against humanity, and bingo, we're going to have a trial, and you're going to be convicted because the evidence says you're guilty, and, then we're going to execute you. And, okay, and so how come, the United States government, in the form of a Bush, says, to Afghanistan. If you got this Osama bin Laden character, turn him over to us, and because we said so, or we'll just bomb your country into oblivion. Which they proceeded to do, of course. Well, that's a crime, because you're not allowed to do that. I mean, if you have a charge against a person in a country that's not your country, out of your jurisdiction, so to speak, and like, let's say Osama bin Laden actually did commit some kind of crime in America, which I doubt, since he has never been in America. Well, I don't know if he's never been in America, but not recently. And so if he actually committed a crime, then you get out a warrant and you have him arrested if he's in your country. If he's in a foreign country, then you have to ask the foreign country. We have a warrant for arrest of this suspect in terrorist acts. And okay, then show us the evidence and we'll decide whether we're going to give him to you or not. Because we're not just going to hand over somebody because you say so. I mean, what kind of fucking stupid people are these Americans anyway? I'm sorry, you're fucking stupid. And evil and criminal and monsters and psychopaths and shit. I'm talking about George Bush, for example. So that has to do with debates here. Donald Trump, Hillary, she's wrong, he's wrong, and they're both insane. Alright, so we'll go from there. Alright, that's the end of this segment. I'll get to the second question that I heard last night on the debates and their responses. And if you've heard the debates, if you listened to them or heard anything about them today in the news, whatever, I'd be careful what you listen to. I mean, I wouldn't take everything you hear as gospel. You can take what I say as gospel, but you really shouldn't. You should actually do some research yourself. I'm not telling you to believe what I say just because I said it. That would be as stupid as believing the government of the United States. Duh. I say hold me up to the same scrutiny that you hold the government up to. I mean, if they say something you know for a fact is wrong or a lie or illogical, then, good. More power to you. All right, I'm going to stop now. We'll continue this in the next segment, theoretically, because you never know. Hillary Clinton might have me killed. All right, talk to you later.